Hello, and welcome to the Cooperative Game Chat. I am the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero, how are you today?
Doing all right.
Doing all right, huh? Just that. Nothing else. Nothing going on. Nothing interesting. Nothing exciting. Nothing. Just doing
Yeah,
okay.
just kind of,
Just
just kind of doing
nothing.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. You're supposed to vamp a little. You're supposed to be like, yeah. You know what happened on the way to the store today? No, you just fine. We'll get into it. Zero, you've been playing a game, which is something I've been doing, but I didn't play enough of. So I'm not entirely comfortable talking about what I've been playing. So you're going to go ahead and talk about the game that you're playing. So go right ahead. What have you been playing?
I've been playing R-Type Final 2. Um, put in a good amount of time into it, and for me, being a shooter and bullet hell person, just this was one game that had always been on my radar, but just to get the entire bundle with all the DLC and stuff, it was just a little pricey. And then a friend had said, "Hey, I want to gift this to you, and I need you to help me out with the thing that needs your expertise." And I was like, "Okay, I won't say no. What do you want?" And I was like, I could go for R-Type 2 Final." And they're like, "Done. It's in your mailbox."
Okay, nice.
So, it's fun. It's like classic Super R-Type on the Super Nintendo. So, if you liked Super R-Type, then you will feel right at home with this game. It's much similar to the original R-Type Final that was released on the original PS2. So you've got missions you got to pass through in order to open up certain ships that you can build, and of course, naturally, with the different ships that you can get, some of them will have different loadouts, different powers, different perks. Um, and even going as far as different configurations you can set them up at with and everything. So if you're a person who likes the homing missiles, then naturally you can pick a ship that has that as an option, or maybe you found that you like the depth charge bombs better because they just um, blow up a large cluster of enemies faster than something else. So it's really granular in how you can customize your ship to how you want it. And of course, because of the nature of um, the fact that you're going to have to play and revisit the game to grind out resources to build some of these ships,
Hmm.
naturally, just for anyone who wants to find that one perfect ship that is the Goldilocks zone for you, then this game will have a lot to do. Especially if you're really wanting to sort of max out on the resources and everything, because uh, I believe the resources are also tied to your score as well too.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, the better you perform, the more items and perks that you'll end up getting. So it's kind of neat there. Um, and then on the background side of things, the game is developed by Granzella, and Granzella is a bunch of former IREM guys because I believe the original studio that held the IP, IREM, sort of went belly up and went defunct
Hmm.
many, many years ago. So Granzella was formed and they were able to take over the IP, and they've been in control of the IP ever since.
Okay. Now, R-Type Final, I remember, came out. Good God, I don't remember when it came out. When was the last time R-Type Final came out? It wasn't it a. Oh. I hate when I do this, so I'm going to have to look it up. Uh.
Yeah, it was um, back in 2007.
Oh, it was a PS2 game?
Oh yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wait, are you sure? Because
Yep.
I'm because I'm looking at it right now. It says
Or
Xbox One
excuse
place.
me, it came out in 2003 in Japan, but 2004 in North America. And then it was R-Type Tactics that was supposed to be the sequel to R-Type Final, but that one, R-Type Tactics, was sort of weird because they went with more like a strategy game,
Mm-hmm.
sort of bent on it, and it didn't feel right.
Okay. Yes, you're right. PS2. Okay. So I'm just asking because I kind of I'm not a big horizontal shooter fan. Was it horizontal or vertical?
It's horizontal.
Oh my god, I haven't been in school in so long. Uh, okay, so do they? Is this just a reimagining of R-Type Final, or is it very different from R-Type Final?
That's where it's interesting. The main meat of the game is its own sort of story, but if you get the first season pass and the second season pass, they also have a whole bunch of uh tribute missions that are basically a sort of revisiting the original R-Type games in a way.
Hmm.
And it's kind of neat because you can play with whatever ship that you prefer and sort of blast through the game and everything.
Hmm. Okay.
So it's real neat in that aspect, especially being able to uh, revisit some of the game maps and stuff from some of the past games. But yeah, just I've had a lot of fun with it. Uh, Even though just memorizing the patterns and then trying to remember that I can use the weapon option backwards, that always takes a little bit of reminding myself to do, especially in some of the missions where you'll just have like a horde of enemies and stuff that's right behind you, and I just forget to deploy the option, let it fly backwards, and then just click up to it from the rear and just let the option blow up stuff.
Okay.
So classic R-type action. So if you're an old school shooter fan, you're probably going to have a lot of fun with it.
Okay. I'm not particularly a fan, but I've always been curious about it. Would it someone who's not particularly a fan or just hasn't played one in a while? Would you recommend that, or is this something for someone who has really been into the genre?
Personally, I think it would still be good for anyone who is kind of curious on shooters, mostly because of the fact that the game does provide a lot of difficulty options. You've got practice, easy, normal, hard, and very hard. So um, there's plenty of room to sort of set the game to a difficulty that you're comfortable with, and just sort of practice, get good, memorize the patterns, and memorize ways to sort of speed up destroying bosses and stuff like that. So uh, personally, I think there's a lot of room for anyone who might be curious about the game.
Hmm.
So I would still recommend it.
Okay. Okay. I mean, not much else to talk about on this because it is what it is. And what system are you playing it on?
I'm actually playing it on PC via Steam.
Oh, okay, you snob. All right.
Hey, well, that was where my friend gifted it
Okay.
to me,
Well,
so I'm
can't
not gonna reject a gift
yeah,
horse in the
can't
mouth.
can't do that. Yeah, I agree. Okay. All right, man. That sounds good. All right, so we will move on from here, and we'll talk about some of the news that happened throughout the week. One thing that we caught on to over the weekend is an announcement, or I don't know if it's an announcement or a rumor, or it's a rumor. I think right now, but apparently, Microsoft is planning to release two things that I think, and I think you think the same as I do, that could really change the industry. The report is that they are releasing a streaming device, like a little puck, like the Google Home pucks, that you can attach to a TV and you can stream video games on there. They are also going to be releasing a Samsung smart TV app that is specifically for Xbox as well. Assumingly, it's for Xbox Game Pass. Zero, what do you think about these potential rumors, which sounds credible? What do you think about Microsoft doing this?
For me, I think it's more of a showing that they see the long game on where they can push the industry into being more of a service industry. So Combine that with things like Xbox Game Pass Ultimate,
Hmm.
and you pretty much have a gateway drug to get people into gaming that may not have considered playing anything on modern gaming platforms, because at that point they can either download the app in the Samsung TV App Store to play their Xbox stuff, and all they would just need to do is just get a $60-$70 official Xbox controller and pair it via Bluetooth to their TV, and boom, they're off to the races. And with the streaming puck, that broadens their access to other people who may not be into buying a Samsung TV. Um, Maybe they want some of the graphical clarity that you get from some of the Sony TVs, or maybe they're extremely eccentric and want to get something like one of those insane gigabyte 55-inch G-Sync gaming monitors
Mm.
uh, that are like a couple grand, but don't really they don't really want any sort of like um, proprietary app store. So just you've got sort of the entire gamut of non-Samsung TVs covered by this little puck. And if the puck kit comes with a free controller in the box for maybe 100 or so dollars, then there you go. Just all this new person has to do is just get this puck connected to their TV, connected to whatever Wi-Fi hotspot that they have in their house, and then just probably a quick update of this little gaming puck, and they're ready to rock and roll on the games of Xbox Game Pass. And and it's kind of funny because Sony actually had this sort of going on smart TVs many years ago during the slow introduction of PlayStation Now, where you could play PlayStation 3 games via a streaming connection and everything.
Mm.
And the only thing you needed was just a PS3 controller. Unfortunately, they had locked this feature to just Sony TVs, which was a terrible move in my
Yeah.
opinion, and limited the reach so much because just not everyone's into buying Sony TVs. Maybe they've got their own reasons or whatever, but it was such a short-sighted move by Sony in my opinion, because I was just sitting there when they announced, "Oh yeah, we're coming to TVs, but only Sony TVs." The first thought I had was, have you guys not been paying attention? The one brand that's been selling TVs like crazy back in um, late the late 2000s has been Samsung, LG being a close second, and then um, Vizio and TCL and Hisense were just trying to fight for third place at the time, and it was just like, you guys are missing a huge market of potential people who'd be willing to just play these games via streaming, and just say, you know, don't really care for a PS3, but being able to play PS3 games from my TV via a streaming app, and all I just need to do is just buy a PS3 controller. Great.
Mm.
So, yeah, Sony had the groundwork for this, but then sort of never really iterated on it. And I think it wasn't until recently that they finally made an app for um, I think it's only to Android TVs at the moment.
I thought it was on PC
So,
as well.
yeah, I mean, the PC part was added later.
Okay.
So it was just kind of this real slow expansion of it. Whereas Microsoft looks like they're just kind of going real aggressive on it, just going, okay, so we've already got the PC crowd covered. The next opportunity is the TV crowd. So how do we do it? Great idea. We partner with Samsung, get an app, and then what about the people with non-Samsung TVs? We make a Chromecast style puck and just have people plug it into their TVs, and just boom, they are ready to go.
Yeah.
So I just think this is a really aggressive move by Microsoft, and as long as they've got the infrastructure to make sure that everything can launch without a hitch and make it extremely easy and accessible for people, then yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting future for the video gaming landscape, especially with just the fact that they sort of have the a gaming of Netflix sort of vibe down right now,
Hmm.
and it's just kind of amazing to see. But as all things go, there's always sort of a downside to everything, and I think that would lead us to our next story.
Right, and before we get to that, I'll just give my 2 cents, and it's quick. I agree with you on a lot of what you're saying. Um, I think I put on our Discord that if they charged $100 for the controller on this, and you added and give 3 months of Game Pass, you have an instant buy. You have people snatching these up like crazy.
Yeah,
So I think if they price it right and they're truly doing it and they price it right, they have. I think they have the console killer they've been looking for. I think that this will, and this all depends on if streaming is as good or is really good. And with the announcement that Joe Biden is, wasn't the announcement that he's not ordering, but he's giving the IP providers money to make higher speed internet more accessible or
I
either
think
cheaper.
so.
Yeah. So with that being announced as well, I think that this would be a prime time to have a device like this, because that was the only issue that I could think of that would hamper this, which is that some people just don't have good internet. So yeah, I mean this really is a no-brainer, and if you can release this, make it attractive, and make it cheap, you have a killer device that people are going to want. You just got to price it right. Now, that being said, what we're alluding to right now is, yeah, this would all be great, but if all of you had an Xbox this past weekend, you may have had problems actually getting to play your games because they were having a major DRM issue. A lot of people were reporting. Strangely, my brother didn't have this problem on his Xbox Series X, but a lot of people were reporting they couldn't access Game Pass, they couldn't access their games, they couldn't play their disc games or their digital games because the Xbox servers were having an issue and they couldn't verify the DRM. Now, that would be a huge problem if you have a streaming puck and you're having issues with your back end. Because if that's the case and no one can access their games, then you just have a piece of plastic that is completely useless. And people who had $500 and $250 systems suddenly had that problem this past weekend. Has it been fixed, Zero, or has that been? Because I still see people on Twitter still complaining about it, and I don't know if it was just people just console warring and saying how Xbox sucks, or if they're still actually having issues or not.
As far as the issues go, it's been really interesting. Some people have said it might be some sort of DNS issue, which is really interesting because I was seeing some reports of people going, "Oh yeah, just change your Xbox's DNS servers to the Google DNS address, so 8.8.8.8 or 8.8.4.4." And in some cases, some people were saying to change the DNS addresses to the Cloudflare DNS servers, which is 1.1.1.1 or 1.0.0.1, and apparently that should solve the issue. So it's been really weird, and the last thing that I really heard was Xbox. The Xbox social media team put out a little PR blast on Twitter sometime yesterday saying, "Hey, we are aware of this problem. We are basically trying to work around the clock to fix it. We don't have a fix yet, but we assure you everything is being worked on. So just please be patient with us. Just we're doing all we can do."
Okay, I'm looking at Twitter right now, and it looks like some are saying it's up, some are saying it's not. So it's kind of messy as of right now. So that sucks. I have a PS5, so I'm I'm not particularly having the issues that everyone's having, but I will say, if I remember when Sony had the month and a half outage on the PS3 about 2000. God, was that 2009? 2008? When
I
was
want
that?
to say two. It was either 2009 or 2000, uh, maybe 2010.
Hmm.
I know when the PSN hack from the Lizard Squad happened, it
Yeah.
coincidentally happened right when I got my review copy of Arcana Heart
Hmm.
on PS3. I was actually assigned to review that from um, uh, Access Games, coincidentally.
Yeah.
So, what a terrible time to be given a review game and not be able to test the online function. But I want to say that was maybe 2009, maybe 2010. I forget. I'm almost curious now.
Hmm. Let's look it up. But what I'm getting at is, it seems like this becomes an issue when most of your 2014 or it's 2011. Wait a minute. It was 2011 because it lasted from April 20th to May 14th. It's almost 3.5 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember this. But yeah, when you have servers and another with these servers, you're going to have these issues. Now, the difference between the Sony hack and the outage and Xbox's outage on this one was you could still play your disc games. Apparently, people couldn't with Xbox, and that is
Yeah.
a big problem. I mean, a big problem because if you're saying to me that these people, and I've already said that I think buying discs at this point is kind of pointless because all you're doing is you're re-downloading everything into your hard drive. It then has to be updated. And then when you delete it, you have to do it all over again. So you're not really playing on the disc. The disc, all it is a key to say, yeah, you own it. That's it. That's all it is. So like for sports games, I don't even bother. I don't bother buying the disc games. It just takes up too much space. So I buy digitally. But yeah, this is going to continue to be an issue. And I would say if it was like an hour or two, I wouldn't be too pissed or too, because I'll even say like that happens. If it's even if it's planned, it happens. Okay, I get it. What are you gonna do? But when it lasted for, it has been 5 days now. That's a big
Yeah, it'll
problem.
soon be 5 days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a big problem, and they have to. I hope they figure out what the problem was and fix it. But also turn off the DRM where you need to be online in order to play disc-based games. That's ridiculous. That is very anti-consumer. And as much as we've dogged on Sony about being anti-consumer with some of their things, you got to call out Microsoft as well for this.
Yep. And it's kind of funny because there's a Twitter account that um goes goes and does testing on what games can be played completely offline or not,
Mm-hmm.
called Does It Play? And they actually had some commentary about this whole thing that uh apparently it's an implementation thing for Xbox games because publishers like Activision have a DRM check-in for offline single player games. But it only works for things that are not on Xbox, while as the majority of Xbox games do have some sort of weird online DRM check-in, and they had mentioned that a lot of these games don't have these sorts of online check-ins on PlayStation or Switch, and they've tested quite a number of games from what they were saying.
Hmm.
So it's really interesting to see how this all sort of shakes out.
Yeah. Okay.
Though I think one of the things I'm real curious about is if there will be any sort of like incentives for the lost time, because naturally, with Xbox having this issue of not being able to um, verify game DRM, then it also affects people who are on Game Pass because technically that means you're not able to play anything on Game Pass.
Yeah.
So, and we're starting to come to about a week, almost a week without service for games. So I wonder if Microsoft has a plan in place for some sort of like apology gift of, hey, here's 1 week worth of Game Pass Ultimate to make up for the lost time, or if they're going to be real generous and say, actually, hey, how about one whole free month of free Game Pass Ultimate as an apology for the severe outage or whatever.
I doubt it's going to be that generous. I think a week or two is what they'll give. But yeah, at this point, they kind of have to do a goodwill and give them something for free. My fear, well, fear is not the word, but what I'm trepidatious about is that they're going to say, okay, here's this free Xbox Live game from the Xbox 360. Yeah, here's Outpost Kabuki X. Enjoy. Sorry. And then people are like, why the fuck would I play this?
Yeah,
So, yeah, I think they should do that, but whether they'll do it or not, we'll see. But, yeah, it's the, well, I guess the story of this is the puck sounds like a great idea, but if they continue to have these DRM issues, then it's going to pose a problem. So they're gonna have to start updating and reevaluating how they do the DRM on their system because they got called out big time for this, and I can't say it's not deserved. So
yeah.
okay, so let's move on. We've talked about Blizzard with their business practices, and we've talked about that they're going more in a phone game. Yeah, they're going for mobile games mostly now, except for Overwatch 2, which is looking to be kind of a disaster right now. But this past week, they announced a new Warcraft game called Warcraft Arclight Rumble, and it's only coming to phones. I think they made it quite clear, only to phones. They're not bringing this to PC. And from what it looks like, it makes sense. It looks to me like I think we talked about it earlier. It looks like a mix of Warcraft and Clash Royale, but it has a single player mode on top of multiplayer. So it looks interesting. So I think the first thing I have to say on Arclight Rumble is that thank God it's a game designed for phones, because if this was just Warcraft with Warcraft on a phone, I don't think I would have had a good reaction.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely interesting. I don't really play Blizzard stuff that much these days, but I'll be real curious on how the monetization plan goes because um, I know you've got some Blizzard games that are really, really bad about monetization. Uh, a great example would be Hearthstone. Hearthstone is probably one of the most aggressively monetized of the Blizzard games out there. And then you've got some games that aren't quite as bad as on the monetization front. Um, Stuff like Overwatch and uh, I want to say Heroes of the Storm isn't too bad still because most of that stuff is cosmetic, which um, it can still be bad for people with kind of compulsive disorders that they got to have everything. But for those that aren't too cosmetically inclined, then the uh, the microtransactions in Heroes of the Storm and Overwatch probably aren't that bad
Hmm.
by comparison to something like Hearthstone. So that's really where a lot of my curiosity is going to be directed. It's going to be how bad are they going to monetize Arclight Rumble? Because uh, if the accounts from people talking about the Diablo Immortals monetization uh, are going to be what they will be for the final release, then ArcLight Rumble's probably going to suffer the same fate, I imagine.
I'm looking at the site right now, and I saw the gameplay trailer. It looks good. It looks decent. I'm just yeah, you're right. I don't know how they're gonna monetize this. So if it's anything like Clash Royale, I think it will be one of those in the beginning you'll get to play and you'll be able to level up and be just fine. It's when you get into the later levels where they're gonna really want you to start buying. So let's hope it's not that aggressive, but because especially since I just got off of Lost Ark and that mess. So yeah, I told you like I don't think I told you this. I stopped playing. Well, and then we'll move on. I stopped playing Lost Ark, and after 2 days, I was like, "Oh, I'm done. I'm not playing it anymore. I'm free." I then decided, you know what? Let's make it official. Then I uninstalled it from the computer. So I think
Remove that temptation.
Huh?
Remove the temptation.
Exactly. So I think I'm free. So so that's anyway. But yeah, that's really all I could say about ArcLight Rumble. They had a trailer, looks good, but we don't know about the monetization yet. So we'll see from there. So we're gonna move on. Zero, you pointed this out to me when we got on the call, I should say, that Dying Light 1, the people who made Dying Light, I think it's Techland, right?
Yeah, Techland.
They decided to make all the DLC from Dying Light 1 completely free. So if you own Dying Light 1 and you haven't gotten, I think it's the following, is it called?
It's basically the first expansion pass content. So
Yeah.
That includes the following expansion, which sort of expands on the story and everything, and then a couple of the cosmetic DLC packs and things like that. So really kind of a neat consumer forward gesture, in my opinion, especially since I'm just so used to these days where just a developer will just kind of move on to the next game, and the DLC will still be there for full price. And really, if you wanted to get DLC to complete a game, then you end up having to kind of wait until there's a Christmas sale or there's a Thanksgiving sale or whatever holiday sale that the publisher and developer end up picking to put their game on sale and everything. So to see them sort of do this, I'm personally a fan of it because it's a great consumer forward gesture, especially just in an era where we're just so used to just DLC rarely going on sale in some cases for some games, and these may be games that nobody really plays anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just so great to see them just sort of say, hey, the DLC is out there, and if you're wanting to expand the story, then great. I think the only DLC that isn't free is some of the collab DLC where they sort of collaborate with some other games and stuff like that. So like their collaboration with Vikings, with Rust, and some of the other games that I'm forgetting. But yeah, I think those are the only ones that are not completely free. So but for the fact that you're getting most of the story related content for free is really kind of neat to see.
Yeah. I agree that this is a consumer forward facing good practice. However, let's also be honest, they released this after the sequel and in a state where no one was buying it anymore. So
yeah,
there's that. I still give them props for it. The practice for most developers, or it's been better as of recently, is that they put the game on sale, the base game on sale for cheap, but they leave the DLC as regular price, So you may buy the game for $6, but then you're still paying $50 for the DLC. So it's like you're paying $60 anyway. So, especially for a game that is like 3 or 4 years old. They've done better recently with games where they really they put on sale not only the base game but an entire bundle for a good price. So that's good as well. I think more games, especially when they have sequels, should start doing this to hype up their next game coming out. Like if, God forbid, if another Borderlands comes out, they should pretty much make the DLC from Tiny Tina's Wonderland or Borderlands 3 completely free, so anybody can play it, so they can get hyped up to get to play the next game. So that I think it would be a good business practice to do that. So, yeah, it's a good idea, and I think, especially if it's a game that's not selling and it is pretty much done, it's completed, and they're not updating it anymore. I think that it's not only a good gesture, it's a good idea on their part to do that.
Yeah, and the point you bring up about just sort of providing marketing hype for like a sequel game coming out, that's a brilliant thought too.
Yeah, I
Because
know.
at
That's
that
why I
point,
said it.
just you can just get a whole community hyped up, get them to play the previous game and win some goodwill, and then at that point, you've got a whole bunch of consumers going, "Hey, you know what? This was really awesome of them to do this. Maybe I'll put my pre-order down for the next game or something."
All right. So, Zero. Normally, at the end of each episode, I ask you a question. This is not that question. This is a serious question. And
Okay.
I'm gonna couch this by saying about a couple of nights ago, after I played some Rogue Legacy 2, sitting there in the kitchen and eating some ice cream, and I thought about the Steam early access games, as you do. As you do. And it led me to a conundrum that I had with early access that I've had with a few games, where I would buy the games early because I'm genuinely interested and they are at a good price, so I go ahead and buy it, and then they start updating the game and I start to not like it because I don't like the direction they're going in. Now, the question I have is, should Steam update its refund policy on early access games? Here's why I asked this question. Right now, the policy for Steam is you have 3 weeks, or after you've played, or before you've played 2 hours of a game, to refund that game if you don't like it. With early access games, you're buying an incomplete game, and you're hoping that the developer will then you'll buy the game and they'll make it the way you want it. That you'll honor what the vision that they have, and you want to support that. But what if they deviate from that mission or from that vision to a point where you no longer like the game? Shouldn't Steam update that policy in case a developer does something like that, whether it's intentional or not? What do you think?
Personally, I would probably be in favor of a revisit to the refund policy with respect to early access games,
Mm-hmm.
because I I have seen the point that you've made, where a developer will sort of decide, hey, I want to go with what I feel is my vision for the game, and just I don't really agree with the feedback from the users, so just screw whatever the users think. I'm just gonna take the game in the direction that I want,
Yeah.
and then naturally, um, that ends up clashing with some of the people who love the original vision, and of course causes its own set of issues. So at that point, you've got when the game gets to like the 1.0 release, it's like you said, just by that point, the refund period window has already gone out the door.
Yeah.
There's no going back. You can't you can't kind of protest and say, I hate this game. This game sucks. Just this is not the direction I wanted the game to go, and I hate this. There's just simply no way to do that, and
Right.
it's a real stinker when that happens too, because of course just maybe the game in its previous incarnation had things set up exactly how you liked it and was progressing in a direction where most people were fine with it, and then all of a sudden just all it just takes is just the developer to just sort of go, I know better than the community, and then just the game can completely go sideways.
Right.
So for me, I would probably support something like maybe giving 3 days 3 days from the version 1.0 release as a refund grace period for
Okay.
an early access game. That way, just day one, you can see how version 1.0 is, and you can see whether or not the developer is going to say, "Okay, holy shit, I'm sorry, I fucked up. I'm going to start rolling some of these changes back to how it was in early access, how you guys liked it. Please stand by. I will get this done." And then maybe the next day you get a version 1.01. Hey, we've rolled back some stuff,
Hmm.
and then the game is just fine again. Or if the developer makes a whole bunch of promises and in hopes that gamers forget, then once day three comes around, then they can just go, okay, developer isn't saying a damn thing. Fuck them. I'm gonna refund this and say screw you. You don't want to lose money? Don't make broken promises.
Right. This would require. Here's. I agree with you. Here would be the pushback I think some would have. A lot of developers who go on to do early access use the money that they got from early access to pay for the costs of making the game. So would that then put them in a negative balance on Steam when it comes to getting their money back? And would this then cause a loss leader where I guess Steam would be on the hook for refunding the games to the people who request the refunds, but then they can't get the money back from the developer because the developer already used the money to get development going?
Yeah, that's going to be the tough part to decide on how to best resolve it, because that's a great point that you bring up, that a lot of the early access developers do use some of the proceeds from the early purchases to fund the development and maybe do some material stuff like pay the rent to keep a house over their head.
Yeah.
So it's really a bit tricky on how to best resolve this. Um, I mean, maybe they can provide sort of like um, I don't know, just maybe a grace account of like $1,000 or something, and then if there's a bunch of backlash and that initial $1,000 dries up, then at that point Valve can then push back to the developer and say, "Yo, you've got a refund problem on your hands. Either listen to your damn community, or you're gonna have to do something because you've burned up your $1,000 of grace refunds for
Yeah.
your early access 1.0 release or something."
I mean, because as good as the refund policy is on Steam, and the Steam's refund policy is better than most, when it comes to early access, there is a big discrepancy. And the power is completely on the hands of a developer who can promise the world and then not deliver, and then the person who bought the game screwed, and they can't get the money back. There has to be a way to then say to Steam, this isn't what I paid for. This isn't what I bought. And yes, you're telling me that things can change when in early access, but this is an unreasonable amount of change. Or he clearly did not deliver what they said they would. I want my money back, and I deserve my money back. So my original thought was to allow grace periods on every update, But now that I'm thinking about it, that would probably be a disaster, because the minute that an update goes wrong, or something's broken, or something is not working, or something that isn't what it's like, I can see a community just evaporating, taking all the money out, and the developer going, well, I'm fucked, because now I can't make the game. So
Yeah.
then everyone deletes the game, and everyone refunds, and then that's it, no more game. So I see that point. I'll concede that. But you're right. I think you should allow a grace period when the game becomes 1.0 to go ahead and allow refunds. That also being said, what if they never get out of early access? There's still games in Steam right now that have been in early access for about 7+ years. What do you do with that? Because some developers, they can always turn around and say, well, how can I use this to my advantage? And they'll just say, okay, I just won't take it out of early access. There.
Yep. And that's actually happened a few times before where a developer will just sort of keep their game in early access forever, and then maybe the game doesn't pan out the way that they want it to, or maybe they decide that their priorities lie elsewhere. And there's actually one game in my collection that the exact scenario happened, and that's a little indie game called Zero Gear, which was supposed to be just sort of like this fun PC PC Mario Kart like game,
Mm-hmm.
and the developer just sort of quickly abandoned ship when the whole mobile gaming trend was starting to pop off, and pretty much never finished fixing any of the game's major outstanding bugs. They just sort of dipped out and said bye, and pretty much all of us who ended up buying the game and bought it during the early access period, yeah, we've got no way to resolve it. And
Okay.
the game was in early access for pretty much ever, and wasn't flagged as finished, or hey, we're done. It was just kind of, yeah, we're just going to quietly abandon this game and never develop anything on Steam. And I could potentially see developers abusing that sort of a mechanism. Just, hey, I'm just going to leave my game flagged as early access, but I'm just going to quietly go and abandon this game and not care because I've already got the money. It's in my hands, and I'm just going to go ahead and run with it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say maybe that as early access, you have to give a time limit, or Steam gives a time limit to say, okay, you are saying you are releasing this game when? And plainly put that up there. And then if they have to delay it, they would have to provide an update for that delay,
Yeah,
and then have to say you can refund the game if you don't want to wait for the delay. That would be my, if I were Steam and doing this, that would be my thing. I would be like, you can put your game on early access, but you have to put in a date where you think it's gonna be ready. Not
yeah,
TVA, not like in 5 years, maybe. No, I want a date. You say you're going to put it on early access. What's your development time? Because as a business, with Steam probably would want to also say, like, we're a credible business here, and we have expectations to be on our platform. So you need to tell us when this game is going to be ready. And if they say, oh, we don't know it's going to be ready, then you're not on our platform. You're not going to go on early access. If you don't want to do that, fine. We'll take your game when your game is done. But if you're going to put it on early access, we require a date. Give us the date. We'll put you on early access. And then if you don't make a game by the time the date's done, they can refund that money. I think that's
yeah,
fair. I think that's fair.
yeah. I think definitely just some sort of mitigation to try to mitigate any developers who are overly ambitious from getting into scope creep would probably be a good feature to have
Yes.
if the refund feature is to be changed for early access, especially because in some cases it may just be an overly ambitious developer going, hey, I think I can do XYZ thing, and I think I've just got all these wonderful ideas, but then you've also got some of the bad Apple type developers who are just like, oh well, I'll just keep making promises and stuff like that, and it's gonna be cool because you know um, these people they'll eat that shit up,
Yeah,
and they won't question it because they'll be like, oh hey, just I'm getting more of the game I love, and not knowing that I'm not gonna keep my promise and put in whatever feature that they're paying for.
right.
So
Because
so
if your business is going to be, if you're going to turn your business to GoFundMe, then you kind of have a problem in your hands because that GoFundMe is filled with scams. So I think, yeah, if I was Valve, I would have a serious conversation about the refund policy when it comes to early access games, and just say, okay, I mean, we can't rely on developers to have these types of dates or these types of things to do that, and then all of a sudden nope out when they have the money. Even if that means, God forbid, even if that means siphoning the money as a, I don't know if they can legally do this, but even if it means instead of giving them a lump sum, that they go ahead and say, okay, we'll give you the money in chunks. So if you need X amount of money, we'll give you X amount of money for this amount of time, and we'll give you that money. But in case someone wants to refund it, we need some of that money back. So I don't know legally if they can do that, though. So
yeah, that's where it gets legally thorny in my opinion,
yeah,
and I don't really know financial law too much, so I can't really comment myself, but yeah, just
I think
um
I think the law is you cannot hold money unless you are legally a bank. I think that's the thing. So if they're not, I think I just answered my own question. So if they're not a bank, according to the U.S. government, I don't think they can do that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, because yeah, just if there was some sort of escrow service, then yeah, maybe that'd be a requirement for anyone looking to get on the early access train and stuff like that, depending on the budget of the game or something. Because if it's something that maybe it's a small time developer who's making a game that's, I don't know, maybe ranging from $5 to $20, maybe as part of the requirement to sign up as an indie developer, they need to put like $100 into like a holding account that acts sort of like an escrow of sorts,
Mm-hmm.
and basically just at that point that'll be sort of held there until their version 1.0 release, and maybe that sort of acts like a little buffer pool for for any sort of potential refunding that happens because of some sort of discrepancy on the version 1.0 release.
Yeah.
And then maybe if refunds burn up that $100 or so, then at that point all sales of the game are frozen, and Valve sort of has a small talk with the developer to say, hey, just you've got a major discrepancy going on here. You need to fix it, or you need to do something. I don't know.
Hmm. I just thought of another thing, and I don't think this is a good. This may not be a good idea, so I'll just say that. What if they start just charging for updates? Like, if you're
Ooh.
gonna, you give the option of you can either buy the game on early access for $20 and get all the updates, or if you want, you can pay $3 for each update. That way, you're getting the update. You pay the 3. If you want the next update, you get the 3, and if it sucks, you'll refund it.
Interesting. Especially
It
since
it, it
um
it's not an attractive business proposal. I'll admit that. If because I would look at that and go, I don't like being nickel and dimed. Really, I'd rather just pay the 20. But then on the other hand, doing that would be like, well, then that's the clear motive for a developer to say, oh shit, they don't like this, I gotta change it, and then be off, and then they'll pay for the next update.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because if I remember correctly, that was how Xbox used to run things for their Xbox Live Arcade titles. That basically, if you were an indie developer, you could only publish under um, the Xbox Live Arcade label. And interestingly enough, if you were an indie, any updates that you wanted to push for your game, you actually had to pay for them, I believe. So um, I think if you were to do that, you'd probably have a large amount of people probably um, they'd probably push back and say, "Hey, um, I'm not cool with this. This is kind of rolling the path of development backwards, and this is also unfair because you're not charging major the major game labels this sort of update fee. So, just we don't think that this is um, fair or equitable. So that introduces its own can of worms, in my opinion.
Well, okay. I mean, if we're talking about equity in business, I would have to say there's no such thing as equity in business. So,
Yeah.
um, sounds cold. Don't get me wrong. I know, but that's the reality. If you're looking for that in business, good luck. You'll never find it. That said, as Steam, I would say if you're a big name publisher, there's no damn way I'm putting any of your games on early access. Like if you say I'm gonna put Assassin's Creed on early access, no, it's like no.
Yeah.
You'll make your money back. Just wait until it's out, please. No. That is against the spirit of what do you call it of early access. No, sorry, because I think there's a Square Enix game that's on early access. If I'm not mistaken, what is it called? Val. Oh my God, what was it called? I just saw it. But anyway, what else was there? I mean, I think just in this situation, they just have to come up with a more consumer friendly, just something more consumer friendly. Oh, here it is: Valkyrian Arc Hero School Story 2. Oh, it's P Cube. Never mind. I thought it was Electronic. I thought it was Square Enix. Okay, never mind. Um, yeah, I'm surprised this is not an issue with a lot of people. I think this is one of those things where people aren't either not putting two and two together and thinking, "Huh, this is kind of messed up," or I guess it's just not an issue with people, where they look at it and go, that's fair. Because I think most people don't purchase games on early access. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
I think we're different. Where like when Rogue Legacy 2 was announced and it was on early access, I snatched it immediately because I knew it was gonna be more expensive when it came out, and I liked Rogue Legacy 1, so I was like, I have no problem doing that. Here's $20. That was me. That
Yeah, and I think the other factor with early access games is if the word of mouth is good. If the word of mouth is good, then most people end up jumping in on it.
yeah,
A famous early access game that most people, I imagine, are familiar with is Stardew Valley. Just
yes,
just that was a game that few people got, and we're just like, yeah, this is like if you modernized Harvest Moon but still kept the vintage pixel graphics. Just this is it. And then, of course, word of mouth just kept spreading that this was the game for those who sort of missed vintage Harvest Moon but wanted something that felt a little less antiquated. that it was just the game to just jump and grab a copy of. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, I think positive word of mouth is another factor for driving most early access sales, in my opinion. But at the same time, that's also its own trap too, because if like we were saying with this whole early access conundrum, is the game might be good now, but what if leading right up to the version 1.0 release, what if the developer has a total change of heart and does something that is completely unfun and just plain hated by the community? At that point, then
Or
you
or
know
they add microtransactions or something
yep.
without. Yeah.
Or yeah, just something like, hey, by the way, we're going to do sort of a microtransaction thing um, on our version 1.0 release. Then at that point, yeah, just anyone who bought early access, they're kind of out of their cash, especially if they don't want to further support the game or anything.
Okay. Okay. So, do we agree that maybe Steam needs to update that policy, or are we just two people who are kind of outside the norm who think this is kind of problematic? I mean, what is this?
Personally, I would be in favor of it, but I don't know if the majority at large would be, especially because I think most of the time it's been real rare that a developer just completely does a 180 and just chooses to make some decisions that are completely against what their early access player base wants.
That's fair. That's fair. I'll agree with that. Like that just it just came to me when I was playing Rogue Legacy 2 and thought, huh, what if I hated this game? what if I couldn't stand this game and I bought this a year ago and I can't refund it now? I'd be pissed. So, yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Zero, I have a
Yeah.
question for you.
Okay.
Okay, Zero. Get ready. On chat, I have the trailer for Avatar 2 The Way of Water. Did you see Avatar 1?
No, it did not.
Oh, shit. Okay, so then this might not be as good as I think it might be. Okay. Are you aware of Avatar and what it's about?
Somewhat.
Okay.
Kind of had like a brief overview because I think it came up in some friendly conversation at like a party with some of my friends and everything, and and I think some friends were like, "Oh my God, you haven't seen it?" I was like, "No, it really didn't come up on my radar." I was like, "Yeah, I know James Cameron, and
It,
big name movie for him and whatever's." And
yeah.
then my friends were just like, "Okay, well here's kind of a brief summary," and just breezed over it. But um, it's been years since that conversation, so I may not even
Yeah.
remember everything at this
Okay.
point.
It's Pocahontas with blue people. You might think I'm being flippant, but that's pretty much what it is. So, um, yeah, Avatar came out a long ass time ago. Avatar 1 was released. I remember that 2009. Holy crap. Okay. Avatar was released in 2009. It was famous for its amazing 3D graphics in movies. Everyone who saw it thought it was going to change movies forever. And make 3D viewing in movie theaters a necessity. If you haven't been to a movie recently, I can tell you that's not what happened. Avatar is the only movie I think that made gangbusters off that, and Gravity I think did well, but that's it. No one else really did any as well in 3D. So that's what Avatar got a whole mess of Academy Award nominations, including Best Director, Best Writing, no acting, of course, but loads of technical awards. It is technically a beautiful movie, but I will always say that the characters and the story sucks because it is literally Pocahontas for 2 hours and 40 minutes, but with blue people, and the writing is not that hot. It's not good, and that's That's James Cameron. My opinion about James Cameron movies is his best written movie is Terminator 2. Have you seen Terminator 2?
Oh yeah, definitely
Okay.
seen that one.
Okay, cool. Like, and he did Titanic. He did like he did The Abyss. But to me, Terminator 2 is his best written film, and writing is not the strength of Terminator 2. So,
Yeah, I mean that. Granted, that's an action movie.
yes. I was going to ask you to watch the trailer and tell me what you think.
Yeah, and I just watched through it. Looks neat.
Okay.
Lots of computer generated art and everything. I think the interesting thing is, first question came to mind was if one of my female friends and her, I think either fiance or husband, I forget what their relationship is now, but
Could be one or the
if
other.
if their studio is going to be working on the movie because they do the 2D to 3D conversions for like the 3D XD movie theaters and stuff like that.
Really? Okay.
So that was kind of the first thought I was thinking, just seeing like all the computer generated like graphic work that was going on in the trailer. I was just like, I wonder if my friends out in Toronto are going to be working on doing like the 3D 3D XD movie conversion for this, because yeah, I could easily just see them working with James Cameron Studio or whoever's behind this one, and basically getting the assets directly from them, and then sort of doing some 3D rendering for the XD movie theater experience and stuff like that.
All right.
But
So,
overall, it was interesting. Not really much dialogue being shown off. It was just a
yes.
lot of sort of sort of like scenic shots from what I could tell.
Right. It is. You're right. The trailer was to show off the visuals and to show off, yeah, the visuals, and the visuals look good. They look good. I don't look at them as a step up from the 2009 movie, and for a movie that I think reportedly has a astronomical budget. Let me get the budget just so I can. $250 million budget.
Wow.
That, okay, for a movie, that is ridiculous. Of course, Avatar 1 was $230 million. The new Doctor Strange, $200 million. So maybe that's not as ridiculous as I imagined. But I kind of think I think it will make its money back, but I didn't see it in the theater when it came out. I'm probably not going to see this in the theater either. But yeah, looks great. But my issue was never the visuals. It was the characters. It was the story. And if it's going to be, and it looks like it's going to be a lot like the first one. So yeah,
Yeah, and the budget mention is actually kind of interesting because I think one of the biggest budget video games of the industry so far is probably Grand Theft Auto 5 with a budget of, I think, $265 million.
yeah, that we know of.
Yeah.
Because a lot of companies don't give out their budget estimates. They don't, or they keep it under wraps so well that you don't know what it is. You would just have to assume that if they're going forward with a sequel, that it made its budget and its money back. That's so. I don't know. It's good that we mentioned a movie because starting on Thursday, we're going to have a new podcast. And the new podcast is called Is This a Great Movie? It's going to be on YouTube. So go ahead and subscribe to Is This a Great Movie? And we're going to talk about a movie every week that we're watching. And we'll just discuss it and critique it. Like standard movie reviewers. Zero, what is going to be the first movie we're going to watch?
Zhang Yimou's movie Shadow.
Yes.
For most people have probably known this from some of the previous episodes, but just I'm a big sucker for just sort of art housey Asian cinema sort of movies, and Shadow is definitely it. We'll have more to talk about on Thursday when we record this, but just this is definitely sort of in that wheelhouse of where my interests lie.
Right. And we're going to put the first episode that will be for Shadow on this feed. And we're also going to put it on Is This a Great Movie? So if you want to just try it out and see if you like it, you can go ahead and listen to it on this feed. And then go ahead and subscribe to Is This a Great Movie? And you'll be able to listen to us there. And that will do it for this episode of the Cooperative Game Chat. Tune in next time for all the going-ons and happenings and discussions that we have on the video game industry. I am The Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
And we will talk to you next week.